And comfy and good.
As de facto chair. Everybody's here. I think we'll call the meeting to order. Do I have to do that? There we go.
Over to you.
We can start off with a roll call.
Commissioner Cadle.
Here.
I just lost my mic.
Oh.
It fell through.
Technical difficulties.
We're gonna put it back up there. Yep. Not quite. A little bit more. Technical difficulties, we need help.
Should we move you down?
You want to come down here? I won't scream.
Pass that down to Will and have her put it in. Down.
Let me do that too.
We'll get the spot, but you just take the seat.
Go ahead.
We'll try this again.
All right.
Yeah.
It's going to confuse the large television audience.
They're not going to be used to seeing you right here. It's changing everything.
Okay.
Dynamics are changed.
Okay, Commissioner Cadle.
Here.
Commissioner Leachman.
Here.
Commissioner Leanders.
Here.
Commissioner Marco.
Here.
Commissioner Burchill. Commissioner Holtburse.
Here.
Commissioner Booker. Commissioner Schellberg.
Now, I move for an approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? There we go. Moving on to new business and a few changes, obviously. Do we want to introduce ourselves to the new member, our newest commissioner? We'll start down here. We'll introduce ourselves to our newest commissioner, and then she can tell us a little bit about herself. Okay? All right.
Just my name, Stephanie Holtburse.
I'm Chris Cadle, and I'll throw in a little bit. Been on the board for about, this will be my second year in. Today I've become de facto chair, but we're going to hold some elections and we're going to figure things out, so we are glad that you are here, that is for sure. Welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Nancy Jo Leachman. I'm a retired librarian. I was librarian at Salina Public Library for 18 years.
And I'm Willow Leanders, and I've been on the commission about the same amount of time as Chris, and I am an acupuncturist in downtown Salina.
Ah, okay. Well, I'm Christy Marco, and I'm the executive director for a Center for Independent Living here in town, Independent Connection. You may have heard of us. We recently moved from the OCCK building out on Schilling to our own building over here on 436 South Ohio. I'm not originally from Kansas. I'm a transplant here, so directions are still challenging for me, but I'm happy to be here.
Well, we are definitely glad to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome. Okay, moving on to 3.1, elections.
Yes, so we are going to, we'll kind of talk a little bit more in depth as we go into other sections of the agenda, but for our Human Relations Commission in September, we will be having elections moving forward. And so the only stipulations is you do have to have served on the board at least a year in order to be up, be up for a nomination. We are going to first do elections for chair, then we'll do elections for vice chair. There is a kind of cheat sheet of how you would make the motions in there. And so Mr. Commissioner Cadle, as the previous vice chair, like you said, you are currently, standing in, and so I'll have you kind of direct those elections.
All right. We can get that done. Do we have a nomination for, so there's two sections. Do we have a nomination for chair?
Are we doing that at this meeting?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll nominate you.
I nominate you also. What's your name?
You guys say, I nominate and move to elect Chris Cadle as Human Relations Commission Chair.
So could we have one of the commissioners that's not Mr. Cadle
Yes.
say that, please?
I nominate and move to elect Chris Cato as Human Relations Commission Chair.
I second.
All right, do we have a vote?
All in favor?
All in favor?
Oh,
There we
you
go.
you
Sorry.
do that
No,
too?
no.
Well,
Oh,
I
yeah.
thought maybe you couldn't.
Oh, I
since
don't
you
know.
were the-
Can I?
You can.
Okay. This is all new to us here.
It's fine.
So,
She
all right.
says you
All in
can.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion passes. Now, we will have nomination for the vice chair. And
She hasn't been here.
I was gonna nominate, yeah, what's her last name? Shonda Booker. Because I feel like she would do it, but she's not here, so I don't want to.
Well, and she hasn't served at least a
Oh,
year.
at least a
so,
year. Okay. So, one of you lucky people.
I would not want to run.
Has anybody else served a year?
And that's okay. You can, so there's only one person that hasn't served at least 1 year. And you can make the motion, and the person, if they do not want to accept, they can just say, I don't accept it. And
Are you
then,
willing? I'll be happy to nominate you, Willow.
Who are our options besides me?
I choose not to, and
Right.
she chooses not to, and she hasn't been here long enough, so that
Sheila
leaves you.
hasn't been here.
And Sheila hasn't been.
Terry-
Terry is, her renewal was not accepted. We're not sure why. But, so she's at the moment not on the board.
So it's basically me or no one. Okay, I'll accept the nomination.
Wait,
Well, I'll nominate Willow as
accept it.
vice chair.
I second the motion.
would you like to make a motion?
Read the script.
I don't know where the script is. I didn't.
Keep going.
Keep going?
Right there.
Okay. I nominate and move to elect Willow Leander as Human Relations Commission Vice Chair.
I second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed. Willie, you are now the vice chair.
I'm terrible at Robert's law.
I'll try to be here.
I'm such an old hippie rule breaker. Like, you're going to have to help me out, Evelyn. I'm not really good at following rules.
That's okay. I'll keep the rules, and then you be the breaker.
All right.
We're going to keep
can do
things
that.
rolling one way or another.
Yeah.
Thank you and congratulations.
All right. Now that we've got the elections out of the way, we'll move on to 3.2, ethics review.
So, those that have been here for a while, we did review this last year. Actually, it's probably been a year and a half since we reviewed it. You do have the whole packet in your binders. We are not going to review all of that today. I did want to focus on section 4. So if you turn to page 3. Where it says section 4, general ethic principles.
Am I in the right thing? Oh,
Okay. I
section
think I'm
3.
lost.
Are we all there?
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
Okay. So this was an ordinance that was passed back in 2017. And it goes for, it's kind of the ethical principles for all of our boards and commissions here for the city of Salina. So we just think it's important to review it and, answer any questions or concerns every year. as we get new commissioners, but even for the commissioners that have been on for a while, I think it's just a good reminder, at least once a year, because sometimes we forget, or it's never a bad idea to get reminded about definitely the topic of ethical principles. So city officers and employees shall abide by the following general ethical principles. A, place the public trust and interest of the city first, and never intentionally act outside the scope of authority prescribed by one's official duties. B, exercise fair, honest, and unbiased judgment in one's role as a decision maker and advisor. C, do not knowingly misrepresent or withhold facts or information for the purpose of achieving a desired outcome. D, do not seek, accept, or offer any gifts or favors of significant value which are either intended by the source or have the effect upon the recipient of influencing the objectivity of an advisor or decision maker. E, do not disclose or use information received in the course of performing one's duties that is to be maintained in confidence. 1, by rule, regulation, or directive in the case of an employee. 2, by the intent of the governing body in the case of governing body member. 3, by the intent of the applicable board in the case of a member of a board, subject to any legal requirements of the Kansas Open Records Act. And F, treat all persons with courtesy and respect at all times. At this time, are there any questions or concerns by any of the commissioners on that section?
No.
So if you guys are really looking for something to read, I did, like I mentioned, have all of it, add all of this section in there. I do believe at one point it would be good for, as a active commissioner to go through it and read it, just so you kind of know what, kind of the standards and other, information that's been put in there, but
And
section.
where is it in here?
That's what you have. Oh, that's the whole.
Oh, I see, I see.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Is it available on the website too?
Yeah, it is, and I can send out an email. Let me write myself a note. I can attach it to an email to you.
That would be good.
Would that be okay?
Right.
And if you guys feel, you can just pull it up through email. Okay.
And 3.2 ethics review out of the way. Moving on to 3.3 Human Relations Commission bylaws presentation. And I think that's the next.
Yes, so you guys all have a
thing in there.
copy of the bylaws in your binder. I also have it pulled up here if you want to look on the screen, but it is in your packets as well. So right now, these are the bylaws that we are suggesting to be adopted by the commission. We will have to go through every section. So, Mr. Cadle, if you would like to read it, or we can take turns, or we can go down the line, I'll let you guys decide. But please, read through it. I think this is also a great refresher for everyone to kind of know the structure of the commission. And I think for Commissioner Marco, as her first time on the Human Relations Commission, it's going to be a great introduction for her to learn a little bit how it's, the structure of the commission. If you have any notes at the end, we will be discussing, because this will go to our director for her to make sure it's approved. But we want to make sure we get your input before we actually take that step. And then once it goes to our director, we'll come back on October with any corrections or additions that, have been made by both you and our director. And then it'll be, so right now it says adopted September 10th, but we're not going to adopt it today. I just put that date in there.
Okay.
But we'll actually vote on, you guys will put this into action in October.
Would you guys all be okay with each of us reading a page?
Or an article.
For an article? Do it that way.
The articles are long.
Do you want to take one? All right, go ahead.
Article 1, Name and Authority. Section 1, Name. The name of this organization shall be known as the Salina City Human Relations Commission. Hereinafter, it shall be called the Commission. Section 2, Authority. The Salina City Human Relations Commission is established by ordinance number 92-9493 of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Salina, Kansas.
Article 2, Powers and Duties. Section 1. The commission shall be vested with all powers and duties available to it as specified in Chapter 13 of the City of Salina Code and all amendments thereto. Section 2, specifically, the Human Relations Commission shall have the following functions, powers, and duties. A, to receive, initiate, investigate, and pass upon complaints alleging violations of this chapter. B, to subpoena witnesses, compel their appearance, and require the production for examination of records, documents, and other evidence, or possible sources of evidence, and to examine, record, and copy such materials, and to take and record the testimony or statements of such persons. The Human Relations Commission may issue subpoenas to compel access to or the production of such materials, or the appearance of such persons, and may issue interrogatories to a respondent to the same extent and subject to the same limitations as would apply if the subpoena or interrogators were issued or served in aid of a civil action in the district court. The Human Relations Commission shall have access at all reasonable times to premises and may compel such access by application to a court of competent jurisdiction, provided that the Human Relations Commission first complies with the provisions of Article 15 of the Kansas Bill of Rights and the Fourth Amendment to the United States Constitution relating to unreasonable searches and seizures.
Do we ask questions as they come up, or have
Sure.
to already?
No, we can ask questions as they come up.
So, the Human Relations Commission is the people on this side of the table, or everybody in the room?
Yeah, so you're the commission.
Do we subpoena, I don't subpoena witnesses and compel their appearance and require the production, blah, blah, blah.
So basically, the commission, that power is kind of handed down to us, the staff, to do that. And then when we issue a subpoena, though, we have the chair sign the subpoena.
So we basically, they go out and do all the interrogations and do all
I was
that.
thinking, this is everything that side of
That
the
is
table
true.
does, so why?
But ultimately, I think they get our approval first, so to speak. I mean,
Kind of like we are doing it on behalf
Yeah.
of you guys.
So that doesn't need to be stated, that the staff on behalf of the commission?
It's stated, I'm not sure if it's in the bylaws, but in the code, basically, like under the supervisor, it says the commission gives the supervisor the power that they hold, basically.
Cool.
No, that's a good question.
I was like, wow, this is a lot more responsibility than I was.
you didn't know what you were stepping into, did you?
No, I was like, what did I just say I would do? Okay.
All right, that's a good question. C, to hold public hearings, administer oaths, and take depositions to the same extent and subject to the same limitations as would apply if the deposition was taken in aid of a civil action in the district court. In case of the refusal of any person to comply with any subpoena, interrogatory, or search warrant issued hereunder, the Human Relations Commission may make application to the district court to compel compliance pursuant to state law. D, to act in concert with other parties' interests in order to eliminate and prevent discrimination and segregation prohibited by this chapter by including any term in a conciliation agreement as could be included in a final order under this chapter. E, to apply to the district court for enforcement of any conciliation agreement by seeking specific performance of such agreement. F, to bring a civil action in the district court of the county for appropriate temporary or preliminary relief pending final disposition of a complaint under this chapter. G, to issue such final orders after a public hearing as may remedy any existing situation found to violate this chapter and prevent its recurrence, and if necessary, to seek enforcement of such final orders pursuant to federal and state law. H, to create such advisory agencies and conciliation councils as in its judgment will aid in effectuating the purposes of this chapter. To study the problem of discrimination in all or specific fields or instances of discrimination because of race, religion, color, sex, disability, national origin, or ancestry. To foster through community efforts or otherwise goodwill, cooperation, and conciliation among the groups and elements of the population of the city. And to make recommendations to the Human Relations Commission for the development of policies and procedures and for programs of formal and informal education, which the Human Relations Commission may recommend to the City Commission. Such advisory agencies and conciliation councils shall be composed of representative citizens serving without pay. The Human Relations Commission may itself make the studies and perform the acts authorized by this paragraph. It may, by voluntary conferences with parties in interest, endeavor by conciliation and persuasion to eliminate discrimination in all the stated fields and to foster goodwill and cooperation among all elements of the population of the city. I, to create such advisory agencies and conciliation councils as in its judgment will aid in effectuating the purposes of this chapter. To study the problem of discrimination in all or specific fields or instances of discrimination because of race, religion, color, sex, disability, national origin, or ancestry. To foster through community effort or otherwise goodwill, cooperation and conciliation among the groups and elements of the population of the city. And to make recommendations to the Human Relations Commission for the development of policies and procedures and for programs of formal and informal education, which the Human Relations Commission may recommend to the City Commission. Such advisory agencies and conciliation councils shall be composed of representative citizens serving without pay. The Human Relations Commission may itself make the studies and perform the acts authorized by this paragraph. It may, by voluntary conferences with parties in interest, endeavor, by conciliation and persuasion, to eliminate discrimination in all stated fields and to foster goodwill and cooperation among all elements of the population of the city. J, to accept contributions from any person to assist in the effectuation of this chapter and to seek and enlist the cooperation of private, charitable, religious, labor, civic, and benevolent organizations for the purposes of this chapter. K, to issue such publications and such results of investigation and research as in its judgment will tend to promote goodwill and minimize or eliminate discrimination because of race, religion, color, sex, disability, national origin, or ancestry. L, to render each year to the city manager and to the city commission a full written report of all of its activities and its recommendations. M, to receive and accept federal funds to effectuate the purposes of this chapter and to enter into agreements with any federal agency for such purpose.
Article 2, Members, Section 1, Composition. The commission membership shall be as provided in Ordinance Number 92-9493. Section 2, Term of Office. Initial appointments to the Human Relations Commission will be for 1-, 2-, and 3-year terms, and thereafter all appointments shall be for a term of 3 years and until a successor is qualified, provided, however, no person shall serve more than 8 consecutive years. The term of office of each chairperson and vice chairperson shall be for 1 year, and no person shall serve for more than 2 consecutive terms in the same office unless such election to the immediately subsequent team is made by members of the Human Relations Commission by unanimous vote.
I have a question.
Yes.
8 consecutive years, is that, I know that's 8 consecutive years, but if you split it up, would you serve more years?
So, like if you served, let's just say you served 3 years and then you went off a year and then you served another 3 years and then you went off 2 years and then you served another 3 years. I mean, you can do that, but you just can't do back to back.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we're at Section 3. Section 3, voting. At all meetings of the commission, each member attending shall be entitled to cast one vote. All members present shall cast either an affirmative or negative vote unless he has vacated his seat because of a conflict of interest. Voting shall be by voice or by roll call as determined by the chairperson. The affirmative vote of at least 3 members shall be required for adoption of any item of business. In the event that an item of business receives a majority of the votes cast, but such majority does not consist of the 3-vote minimum required, such item shall be tabled until the next regular commission meeting. The number of votes cast for and against each motion shall be recorded in the minutes. Conflict of interest. Section 4, conflict of interest. A member of the Human Relations Commission shall not participate in any proceeding or action when the member, by his or her employer, business partner, associate, or any person related to him or her by blood or marriage, has a recognizable financial interest in the outcome of the proceeding or action. Any recognizable financial interest in the outcome of any proceeding shall be disclosed at or before the meeting at which the action is being heard or considered. Any member of the commission who feels that he or she has a conflict of interest as defined in this section on any matter that is on the commission's agenda shall explain the nature of such conflict, voluntarily vacate his or her seat, and leave the meeting room. Any member may raise the question of conflict of interest or possible conflict of interest with respect to any other member present. The question raised must be decided by majority vote of the members present. Section 5, absences. Whenever a member misses 3 consecutive meetings or his or her attendance falls below 75% in a 12-month period, the secretary shall so notify the mayor of the city of Salina. The commission shall recommend to the city commission replacement of any member who has 4 consecutive absences from regular meetings. Section 6, vacancies. Any vacancy resulting from resignation, removal, or death of a member serving as chairperson shall cause the vice chairperson to automatically assume the position of chairperson, and a new vice chairperson shall be elected.
Today.
I have 2 questions before we go on. Can the second sentence in section 3 voting be changed to inclusive language because every other sentence is inclusive except that one?
I noticed that too. I was like, why is that the only one that said he? And I'm like, so unless if I quit?
Wait, you've lost me.
The
Where?
second sentence in,
He instead of they. Or
Negative vote unless I circled that, that'll be out of there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it'll say they.
the whole rest of it is inclusive language except that one sentence. I was like,
okay.
that right
can
there
only
shows
men
why.
do that part?
Yes, that shows why
Yes,
we're all
you
here
can.
because
That-
look, we all caught that. It's like, hey, wait a second.
It's, I think, circled on all of ours, so that will be
Okay,
taken care of.
Just checking, because it was weird. I was like, okay, everything else is inclusive language except that one sentence.
In fact,
That's
I think
odd.
I heard her go as soon as that was read. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, wait a second. I'm the
That
only
was-
one who can
that-
quit here.
That would have been my action also.
No, okay.
And
What's your second question?
section 5, absences, the secretary shall notify. Is that you?
Yes, it
So
is.
we're not, there's not a secretary on this side, the secretary's on
No.
that side.
Uh-huh.
Okay, I was gonna say, I don't remember us having, just checking. Okay,
Never hurts to ask.
Article 4, officers, section 1. The officers of the Human Relations Commission shall be chairperson, vice chairperson, and secretary. So,
It'll explain it more. when you-
okay, I was gonna say, now I'm confused again because commission, okay. Section 2, the chairperson and vice chairperson shall be elected at the annual meeting and shall serve a term of 1 year or until their successors are elected. Any member nominated for the office of chairperson shall have at least 1 full year of unexpired term to serve. Section 3, a community relations division staff member shall serve as secretary, woohoo, and they may appoint a staff member as assistant secretary. Section 4, any vacancy of office shall be filled by election for the remainder of the normal term. Section 5, no person shall be eligible to hold the office of chairperson or vice chairperson for more than 2 full consecutive one-year terms.
Are we ready? Article 5, Duties of Officers. Section 1, Chairperson. The chairperson shall preside at all meetings of the commission and shall be eligible to vote on all matters coming before the commission. They shall appoint all committees and is responsible, how about are responsible?
Okay.
For conducting all meetings in an orderly manner. The chairperson shall sign all resolutions and other approved records, papers, and documents of the commission. Section 2, Vice Chair. The Vice Chair shall perform all the duties and assume all the responsibility of the chairperson in his or her absence.
How about in their absence?
In there.
Yeah.
Section 3, Secretary. The Secretary shall keep accurate records of all proceedings of the Commission. They shall be responsible for issuing all necessary correspondence, notices, and agendas. They shall be responsible for compiling reports and keeping attendance records. The Secretary is hereby designated as the official agent for the Commission in handling all federal, state, and local contracts and agreements. The Secretary or their designated appointee shall present commission actions and recommendations to the governing board or body. The Secretary shall sign and note approval of the minutes of the commission and shall, when required by law, authenticate the signature of the chairperson. Section 4, Assistant Secretary. In the absence of the Secretary, the Assistant Secretary shall act in the manner and capacity as Secretary.
So that section right there basically gives you, that's what gives them the appointee to be us out there. That's the secretary that says that, right? Okay.
Article 6, Meetings. Section 1, Regular Meetings. Regular meetings of the commission shall be held on the second Tuesday of each month, unless such date is a legal holiday, in which case no meeting will be held. Unless otherwise publicly announced by the chairperson, all meetings shall be held in the City Commission Room, Room 107, City Counting Building, 300 West Ash Street, Salina, Kansas, beginning at 5:30 p.m. Any such change shall be giving public notice for the convenience of persons having business before the commission. Section 2, Agenda. The secretary or other authorized officer shall prepare an agenda of all matters to come before the commission no later than the Thursday preceding the next regular meeting. All requests for inclusion on the agenda must be made known to the secretary by 5 p.m. on the Wednesday preceding the regular meeting, the next regular meeting. Off-agenda items may be considered with the approval of the majority of members present. Section 3, Special Meetings. Special meetings may be called by the chairperson or in his absence, their absence, the vice chairperson, or upon written request of any 3 members of the commission. Notice received by letter or phone by commission members in the news media 24 hours prior to the scheduled time shall be considered ample notice. Section 4, Annual Meeting. The first regular meeting of the month of September of each year shall be designated as the annual meeting, at which time officers for the following 12 months shall be elected. Section 5, Quorum. A quorum shall consist of a majority of the members of the commission appointed and qualified at any given time. In the absence of a quorum at any meeting, the presiding officer may adjourn the meeting to a specific time, date, and place, which shall be publicly announced. Section 6, Open Meetings. All regular meetings of the commission shall be open to the public and to attendance by representatives of the news media. Section 7, Public Forum. Each regular meeting shall include a public forum section in the agenda. The public shall be invited to speak and comment on any item under consideration by the commission. Each speaker shall be required to state their name and address for purposes of maintaining a record. And Section 8, Minutes available to public. The secretary shall prepare and maintain permanent minutes to be kept available for public view and use.
Finish it off, guys. Article 7, committees. The chairperson shall appoint committees as may be deemed necessary to carry on the work of the commission. Article 8, annual report. The secretary shall prepare an annual report for review and approval by the commission indicating accomplishments in the prior year, goals, needs, and concerns. Said report shall be submitted to the city commission by January 31st of each year. Article 9, parliamentary authority. The rules contained in Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, shall govern the commission in all cases to which they are applicable, and in which they are not inconsistent with these bylaws. Article 10, amendments. These bylaws may be amended at any regular meeting of the commission by 2/3 vote of the members present and voting, providing that any proposed amendment has been submitted in writing at the previous regular meeting.
Thank you, guys. So I know that was a lot to kind of go over today. But this is something that, as we're, move forward, we just want to make sure that we have everything in order. And, I think this kind of gives us a clear, if you had any questions as far as the structure of it or how things work, I think this document definitely goes over a lot of things. So if you think that anything's missing or I think both of us over here were making notes and took your guys' suggestions, and definitely that will be changed.
Okay.
But if you guys, for some reason, later this evening or tomorrow think, oh, you know what, I think this should be added, or this is something that I'd like, to see, definitely let us know. We can make changes, within this week. And then I will get this submitted to our director, and then hopefully get everything completed so we can vote on it, so you guys can vote on it on our October meeting.
I feel like you covered pretty much everything that encompasses everything that I can think of on there. Was this, I don't recall going through this before, like that detailed. So is this new for us this year?
It is,
I
so
say it didn't exist when I first started.
it was discovered that this wasn't necessarily put into place before.
Gotcha.
So we are trying to make sure that it is put into place now.
Structure. I mean,
Yes.
at some point, all of us will be gone, and there'll be all new people, and this, again, is a good structure. I like it. All right, that was 3.3. Moving on to 3.4, Fair Housing Conference Staff Review.
So we just came back from a fair housing conference, and I'm going to let Evelyn talk a little bit about.
Yes, we attended a fair housing conference in Chicago last week. It was really, really good. It was at John Marshall Law School. The top fair housing experts in the country were there. They had a lot of panels, a lot of guest speakers. They talked a lot about fair housing litigation, some of the new case law, some of the case law that's in progress. Let's see, some of the highlights were accessibility in housing, so I was excited about that. They talked a lot about how, and we kind of talked about this before, just how kind of everything kind of flows with housing, so like education, transportation, economic development. There was an expert from Minnesota, I can't think of his name right now, but he talked a lot about how education and housing kind of mesh. So it was overall just a really, really good conference. We did some networking, we got some cards, some of the experts told us to reach out to them, so excited about that. Maybe we'll get a guest speaker here for our Fair Housing Conference. It was a really, really good conference. Are there any questions about anything, or?
Was it like a nationwide?
Well, yeah, it's offered to everyone. There were people from everywhere. I mean, they didn't go through the whole room because there was a lot of people there. I mean, they even had an overflow room. It was so many people there. But I mean, just everywhere, East Coast, like all over the country, people were there. So I'm so glad that we got to go to that conference. Again, just some really, really good networking with people from everywhere. And just like-minded people, and just we had some new, fresh ideas for Salina. And honestly, I'm hoping that HRC kind of goes in the direction of focusing on housing because it touches so many things, employment,
Yes.
everything that we do. So, yeah.
I would have to agree with that. I mean, housing is probably the number one problem when it comes to discrimination of some sort or other. The number one, at least that I hear of in our area, is different
Yeah.
reasons why somebody is not getting a house or not, being able to go a certain place or getting a job. So
Right, and it affects all of that.
affects everything. So
Yeah.
did you guys learn anything that you're going to incorporate into the new our housing seminar, or the one we put on at the end of the year, or was it more of a big event?
It was a big event,
Sounds
but
pretty big.
we already kind of started planning the fair housing seminar. I'm hoping that we can maybe move to a committee once we get done with the diversity thing.
Oh, yeah.
But that would be nice. And we kind of had some ideas. I mean, like panel, having some specific like breakout sessions. So I think, just it kind of reinforced what we were thinking anyway. And maybe even the education portion is something that we could kind of incorporate more, because I don't think we thought of something like just a specific how education and housing kind of mesh together. And I think that's so important for our community. So that might be something that we kind of add in there. But again, if you all want to start a committee, we would be more
Good
than.
idea.
But
We should
again, most of that it's like already planned, so you all would just be kind of helping. It's not like we have to start from scratch,
Well,
basically.
it's just like, didn't we do a committee last year? I thought that kind of worked on it a little bit, helped you guys or something with the fair housing, or am I not remembering correctly? I thought they had a committee, but maybe we didn't.
Not sure, but I mean, we do ask, I think the benefit of the committee is, we've always asked you guys, once it gets closer, we keep you guys kind of informed, but the day of, we'll, come out, support as much as you can, if we have a table. I think when you have a committee, you guys can give us more input and just be more aware and knowledgeable as far as what's going on. And you guys may have a different, I think I have 3 under my belt, and I know Evelyn has, her first one, which really wasn't her first one because it was already planned, but, when she got here. And so I think just maybe having that, you guys would kind of be from the outside looking in, may have a different perspective and kind of give us a different guidance maybe and things. So something.
I've attended before.
Okay.
In my role that I'm in. And so my question would be, are you going to have vendors that come or other community partners that are there that maybe have a booth?
That's definitely something we've been talking about. As of these past 3, the only people that have kind of had a table, we've had a table, and then the Realtor Association has had a table. And I think definitely with kind of a different vision that Evelyn has, we've been talking about, is we've talked about reaching out to, not necessarily on a bigger scale resource fair, but kind of open it up to community resources and have that available. We are just kind of definitely looking at what space we have available and how that would work. And, we talked about breakout sessions was something we haven't done in the past. Get people up and moving and provide different options. And
Real popular.
I mean, it can get as, we've even talked about, do we need to make it more than one day, and so I think we're thinking of on a bigger scale than what we've done in the past, and so that's very exciting. But these ideas I think are great. It's something that we just don't necessarily maybe think of, or I think sometimes when you've kind of been instructed, this is the way you do it, you kind of just keep on
You get stuck in that
you
rut,
get
yeah.
stuck in that. And so definitely if, it's something, or if anybody's interested, maybe not right now, but definitely email me and,
Can we put it on for next month to go ahead and see if, when we have everybody here, if we can get a
Optimistic.
sure, so add it to
Panel together,
the
yeah.
agenda, yep, absolutely.
because, I mean, I think we get a few of us to get together and help out for sure.
I think that, this could be a good kind of pilot for this kind of new vision I have for this fair housing. And I think that as we move forward, it could be something totally, like, just really, really amazing and beneficial to the community.
Make a difference.
Because we have, accessibility issues. We have a lot of fair housing issues in the community. And to really kind of, hone in on those would be really, really awesome.
I remember before I was on the commission that there was a vote in the city about including sexual orientation and gender identity as a protected class, and that may not be the right terminology, but it didn't pass here in Salina. On a national level, is there more being said about including sexual identity and sexual orientation and gender identity?
So nationally, it's not necessarily, this is kind of a trick question. So nationally.
Wasn't meant to be a trick.
I can't say that it is, but I will say individually states and different cities are
But I meant at the
including that.
conference, did you hear people talking about including?
They talked about it. That's something that's up in the air with the courts right now. So
Just wondered
it-
if at a fair housing conference, it was in the awareness
Oh,
of the.
yeah, they definitely talked about it. It's just something up in the air on a federal level, but it's something that, when it comes to these kind of laws, on a local level, you have to have the basics of what the federal law says, but you can go above and beyond that. So we could have so many different levels of coverage. I mean, they even talked about, we met someone from New York, they cover income. So, somebody, you can't discriminate against someone based on what their income is. So that's a really, kind of revolutionary thing. So there can be so many different things.
That's a fine line right there that I could see a lot of people crossing and not knowing they crossed it, That's-
I will say
I'm
another
glad they're using
thing that we've seen, sorry to interrupt you, Commissioner Cadle, is gender is in there. And so I think the argument that we're being seen, that has been taken is, even though you don't have a specific, when gender identity or sexual orientation, that could possibly fall into gender in itself. And so some of the cases that we've seen or heard of, at least I know of one that they, and I'd have to research it and I can send it out to you, but they actually won under gender, but it was, it was for the other. And so as of right now, I know it's still, as Evelyn said, kind of going back and forth in federal court, but I do know of states and individual cities that have added it because they,
Well,
that's
it's good to
allowed.
hear that it's on the table. But if you go to, I was hoping that at a fair housing conference, a national fair housing conference, that would be in people's awareness.
definitely.
It sounds like it is. Okay, cool.
Can we get a chance to introduce our new commissioner on board?
Youth on board.
Youth on board. I almost like commissioner on board. Hi, I am Chris. I am the chair, and we can kind of roll through again and kind of reintroduce ourselves, and you can reintroduce yourself to us so we can kind of get to know you. We'll start down here with our newest member.
I'm brand new today, so both of us. I'm Christy Marco, name's up front.
Hi, I'm Willow Leanders.
Nancy Jo Leachman.
And Stephanie Hope Burst.
Hi, my name's Alyssa. It's nice to meet all of you.
It's nice to meet
Nice to meet you. We're glad you're here.
I'm glad you can make it down, and you have an interest in trying to make a difference in the world and do something better for our community. So that's why we're all here.
Alyssa, could you tell us what school you go to and what grade you're in?
I go to South High and I am a senior. That's weird.
Ooh, it's brand new this year, honestly. Still getting used to saying it.
Thank you.
All right. Sorry, little dip away there. 3.5, let's schedule the October study session.
So as we move forward and we're embracing different changes for our commission, we are going to have a new member slash good information for current members orientation. And it's going to have information as far as the commission goes, citywide. I don't know how many of you attended. We used to have it all together with so our department has 7 boards and commissions. I remember Commissioner Marco attending that orientation. I think we did a lunch. But we're going to start doing them individually now. And so it'll, I think last year we did an orientation, so it's just kind of, it might be a little repetitive for some of us that have been on there, but it's, good refreshers.
Always good.
Great time to, to kind of learn and get questions answered. And then it's also, helps get our, we do have 3 new commissioners, and a new youth on board. So just helping them kind of get them ready, because we will start working on our 2020 plan more in November, December. And so just trying to get them, acquainted and learning kind of the ropes before we start working on that. So I know it feels like just yesterday we were doing 2019.
That's what I was going to say. I was like, man, didn't we just do the 2019 plan and it's already almost 2020?
Yes. So this study session, ideally we would like to have it before we meet in October. So that would be,
October 9th is the second Tuesday.
oh, that's a great day for someone. October 9th is the second
And I won't
Tuesday.
be here. I announced.
October 8th.
Okay, I won't be here. I've had a commitment for over a year and
Okay.
announced all along that I wouldn't be here on October 8th.
Okay.
Or the 9th, for that matter.
Okay.
But you want the meeting before October? That would be
We
the
could
first.
definitely change it to a different day. The 1st, I hear the 1st.
Tuesdays are good. Tuesdays are usually pretty good for
I have a meeting first and third Tuesdays, so. So we're talking,
like a Thursday, too.
the study session will be a separate meeting from our.
We can do it before or after.
Well, we've also got the DiverCity thing on October 5th.
What time of day are you going to have it?
It would probably be right before or right after, just since you guys are already here. It would be either, we start at 5:30, so we would probably schedule it for 4:30 if you guys want it before, or we would schedule it for
Okay.
like 6:37 if you guys want it after. We can definitely pick another day, but sometimes it's just easier when you guys are already, you guys are already
Yeah.
here. I promise to keep the agenda,
Minimal?
minimal, just because, if that's what you guys choose to do.
Do we have a topic for the study section?
Yeah, it's going to be an orientation,
Oh,
so.
okay.
So, we could do it on the 8th at the meeting, like afterwards?
Add it onto the meeting.
Probably the best
I
We
think
can't do
so.
it before?
idea. Or before, yeah, either way. I mean,
I'd prefer if we did it before,
a
but,
little bit harder.
Well, but Will can't do it before, can he?
oh, you
Yeah,
can't.
right now, I don't have any patients, so if we do it now, I won't schedule any patients.
So you could do it before.
Yes, I could do it
And
at
I won't be
4:30
here
on the
anyway.
8th, but I could also do it afterwards.
Arrangements if we have to do it at 4:30, we can make it work.
I prefer 5:30, or at least 5:15, after I get off work.
Oh, okay. I have flexible, so.
Work till at least 5.
So I'm hearing after might work for most. Okay, and like I said, I promise to keep the agenda minimal. It won't be as extensive as the one we have today. And then we'll get through the agenda hopefully, and then go straight, we'll kind of break maybe for 5 minutes and go straight into the orientation. If that works for everybody?
October 9th?
Okay,
8th?
October 8th.
Okay.
Will we move rooms for that?
5:30.
Probably not, as long as everyone's okay with looking at that screen.
Are you good with that?
Okay.
Very good there. Moving on to section 4, unfinished or other business. 4.1, the case docket log update.
Okay, it's been a while since we've reviewed the case docket log. So we do have 3 that are that we currently closed. We have an employment case with the basis of race, Hispanic Mexican, that was closed. This one did go to the commission. It was reviewed by 3 commissioners, and it did come back no probable cause. That means for Youth on Board, Alyssa and Commissioner Marco, that means that after reviewing all the investigation, the 3 commissioners that reviewed it found that there was no probable cause of discrimination. So when that happens, that we inform all parties, and the case is closed in our office.
Okay.
We do have, as you see the rest, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other employment cases that you can see there that are open. When a case is open, we can disclose the date it's filed and the basis, but that is pretty much about it. We're not allowed to talk further on about the cases. And so just, this is just kind of a visual for you guys to see how many cases we currently have and are working on in our office. And these up here are strictly employment cases. If we go down, we have, these are our housing cases. We also have 6 open housing cases. We were able to conciliate 2 of them. Conciliation means that we were able to get with both parties. It did not have to go to the commission for a decision. Both parties decided to settle outside of moving forward with that timeline, and they came to an agreement. So kind of a mediation between both of them. So one of them was a housing case with the basis of disability and gender, and that was conciliated towards the end of the month. And then the other one was a disability case in housing, and it was also conciliated, closed towards the middle of last month.
It looked like the
And the one
dates on those,
today.
it was a busy first of the summer.
Yes, it was almost like I felt like every day we were having somebody come in. And these are just the cases that actually came in and filled out the application and turned it back into us. I would say I think we had definitely a flow of people coming in, grabbing an application, and then maybe not following through with it. We do explain the process to everybody that comes in. We have a flow chart, and we'll go over this in the orientation just so you guys know kind of the process of how it works. But we do have a flow chart. We just really like to set the expectation for everybody that comes in, just so they know that we can't necessarily have anything happen right now, and that's usually what people want. They want an immediate solution right now in this moment, which is completely understandable because a lot of these situations are very delicate that they're going through. However, we don't have that authority to do that. So unfortunately, after I go through the flow chart and explain to them kind of the different steps and how everything works, I get a lot of, okay, can I just take this with me and I might come back? And then we may not see them again. So these are the people that have actually either stayed or come back or decided to go and give it, sign the application and continue to have that communication with us to move forward with cases.
And I see see that there's one from today. Is it pending because there's?
Pending signature. But that was something that it was an oversight on our part, but that definitely is something that today we'll get that moving forward.
So was there a reason for so many cases to be filed at the beginning of the dates that are up there, June and July? Nothing happening in Salina that made all these people come in?
No.
They're not
think-
related like the same,
I think
I don't know if we're allowed to know that.
kind of streamlined our intake process, and that's allowed for, I think, more cases, honestly. I think just the intake process can be really sometimes confusing, and I think we streamlined it and just made it, we're in a better place to be able to receive complaints at this point, I think.
Why is there one from 11:30 of 18 still open? I mean, does it actually take that long?
Yeah, some cases, I mean, it's not out of the ordinary for cases to take years sometimes if they're complex. We can't talk too much about cases when they're open, but if a case is really complex, it can take a long time.
And that is we do, like you mentioned, we do have one public accommodation case. And so, just so you guys know, those are our three different topics or sections that we're able to assist with. Filing discrimination cases in housing, employment, and public accommodation.
Any questions or anything on the case docket log? Anybody else?
No.
All right, moving on to 4.2, subcommittee reports. We have the Employment Subcommittee and the Diversity Committee, or Diversity Subcommittee.
Yes, so I will ask Evelyn to kind of report on the employment subcommittee, and I'll do the diversity.
Okay, so for the employment subcommittee, we kind of had a little hiatus for a minute, but we're back in motion. And for the new members, the employment law subcommittee is basically, certain members came together because with a subcommittee you can't have a quorum, so it's. What do we have, 3 people, 4 people? And we're working on a project to educate the public about employment discrimination law. So at this point, we have basically decided that we're going to use a platform called Toonly, and it's basically something you can use to, you create the scripts and things like that, but you create like cartoons, basically. We thought that would be cool for the public. At this point, we have the topics that we're going to be working on, and we have some scripts. Commissioner Cato finished his script. And what was your script on? I'm sorry.
Mine is on, gosh, you had to throw me on there, and then my mind
Sorry.
went blank.
I think it's applicants'
Yeah,
rights.
interview. It's what you can.
Interviews, what you
interview
can and can't
rights,
say,
yeah.
ask at interviews.
What employers can ask you when you're getting interviewed and things that they're not allowed to. Basically, like she said, we're trying to teach employees what they can and can't expect in an interview. A lot of times, I say employers go through long, lengthy classes to learn what they can and can't do, but nobody tells the employees what they can and can't do. And so we're working on trying to do that, and we're going to have some videos
Your
up pretty quick.
script is done?
Yes.
So
We have two scripts, actually.
What's the current, about asking about a felony? I remember there was a ban the box, and then
They can ask you, it can be asked on
it
an
on the app?
application.
So-
Yes, it can be asked on the application, it just cannot be held against you. How you regulate that, I mean, it's,
We're gonna tell them
Kansas
every
is
bad thing
a,
you've done,
Kansas
but
is a
they're not gonna-
right-to-work state, and so therefore, I mean, They don't have to
can't-
tell you why they can and can't hire you. They don't
You
have to.
can't ask any specifics about
Yeah,
it
you
either,
can't-
can you?
no, you
You
can-
can just ask whether you have one or you don't. It's a yes or no, and that's where it has
I
to
just
stop.
remember at some
Now, they
point
can do a
hearing that
background
they
check and
couldn't
find out
add, there was a
everything.
ban on the box, it was not going to be on applications.
It did not
And then
pass.
I saw applications with it on, I was like, wait, I thought we banned the box.
That's kind of like what you said with the other one. That's a state by state. Some cities, some states, they all have different laws, and some of them have banned. A lot of states have banned the box. You're not allowed to ask, but Kansas is not one.
Right. I do want to clarify that criminal history isn't a protected class in Salina, so that we're not going to go into specifics about things that aren't protected classes. But I'm not sure if you added it or not, but some stuff like, something like that, we might say for more information on, felony convictions or things like that. Because we understand that, like, something like that, like, there's definitely disparities based on race in the criminal justice system. So we could give more information, but we don't want to mislead anybody to thinking that they could file a complaint in our office about that. So,
Gotcha. That
but
makes sense.
so we have that done. We have, actually, I should have said before that, we have just a kind of introduction to our office type thing, just to kind of talk about what are protected classes, what is discrimination, the basics. So those are kind of our first two, and then we are working on other ones too, and we will have more information as that becomes available.
It's trucking along. The DiverCity.
So there is another subcommittee for Commissioner Marco and Youth on Board Alyssa that is working on a diversity event for the community of Salina. It's kind of evolved and changed throughout through this whole process, but I think we are at a point to where we have a name. As you can see, it is going to be called, the event called DiverCity. We have a date. It is going to be October 5th from 4 to 7. And we have a game plan that's not necessarily going to be shared right now. We are still trying to confirm different things such as venues and performers, but we kind of want it to be, there'll be entertainment, there'll be food. It's a time for community members to come out, interact with one another, eat some, I guess one thing I will share is we are going to have our dessert, which is going to be cookies, are going to be from different countries, and so it won't necessarily be your typical chocolate chip or like a regular sugar cookie. It's, we have picked 5 different countries to showcase and to have cookies of those that represent those different countries, and we're excited about that.
I like that idea.
Yes,
That is a really good idea.
we got a little taste test, and I think kind of picked our own favorites at that, at that time, but it was, it's exciting to kind of see it come together. So we are, we'll have more updates as we get more confirmations and we get more things scheduled. I mean, that is kind of jumping a little ahead, but that is one of our upcoming events. So we would love for you guys to mark that on your calendar, October 5th from 4 to 7. And we will, once we have a confirmation, I mean, we realize we're in September and it's coming up quick, so we're just, once we get a flyer out, we're gonna start sending it to you guys, and if you guys can send it to, your connections and whoever you know, and if you guys can definitely attend and represent the Human Relations Commission, that would be great as well. If you guys have any questions, please don't hesitate to, give us a call, but it's definitely something exciting, and we're looking forward to it.
Is that something like that you're trying to get like everybody, like teens and stuff, involved in, or is that
Oh,
just like a little event for the adults? And
No, it's everybody.
The
So,
whole city.
yes.
Family oriented.
So, I mean, bring all of your you can bring all South High School if you would like, and anybody at Central. It's definitely, I think we really want to educate people that, the word diversity means it's everything that makes us different. And so it's, our backgrounds, we can think about it as far as like what we look like, but it's also our age, it's our education, it's our economic status, it's, how many siblings do you have? What was your culture like? What did you grow up eating? What are your likes and dislikes? What are some of your hobbies? We can categorize ourselves in so many different ways. And so we don't want anybody to feel like they're going to be, left out. So I think the more variety, I think it's a good opportunity for people that maybe don't necessarily always hang out together to have a chance to hang out. And so hopefully, I know sometimes I've heard a couple times in town when things happen, people are hesitant to go because they're like, well, I'm not sure if I'd fit in, or I'm not sure if that's something I should attend. I want, hopefully we can start breaking down those barriers and say, everyone's invited, everyone, come out and learn about each other and talk to each other and just have a good time. Eat some good cookies.
Do you remember when I first started on this board? That was the number one thing I wanted to do, was have I called it a human voice for change event, where everybody gets together as humans, no matter what, and you come together and celebrate your differences and things like that. And it was one of the reasons why I joined this board, was to try to make that difference and be a part of things like that. So to hear that is how this is kind of become, it was just kind of like, well, we don't know what we're going to do with this diversity, but to hear that you guys have come up with this event, I'm excited about it now. That's awesome. So I'll be there. We'll talk it up for sure.
Awesome.
Any other questions about those? Anybody? Okay. 4.3. Hey, that's perfect. It brings us right into the upcoming outreach events and activities. Anything other than the diversity?
Yes, so we talked about October 5th diversity going on. Also on September, I don't know if you guys are aware, is Hispanic Heritage Month. It's, half part in September and part in October. And we will have a proclamation being read on September 16th, 4 o'clock, if you guys are interested to come and support that. We are also a community organization called One Salina is going to be having a booth in the street fair, the Santa Fe Days, which is September 28th. It's an all-day thing. There's a parade in the morning, and then there's a whole bunch of food, entertainment, and things going on downtown. But they will be doing what's called papel picado. It's a Mexican folk art, and so that's something you can come and learn about. And
What was that date again?
September 28th.
September 28th. Oh. So that was September 16th, the proclamation.
Yes, September 16th is the proclamation. September 28th is the Santa Fe Days, and that's downtown. The parade will be on 7th Street. And
What time is the proclamation?
4 o'clock. Right, yep, during the city commission meeting.
Ooh, I've had to do that before. Read the proclamation. That's kind of nerve-wracking a little bit with everybody staring at you. It's like you almost forget how to read.
Okay, can you repeat that, please? September 28th?
28th, yes.
September 16th at 4 is the proclamation. Santa Fe Days is September 28th.
Oh, okay.
Yep, Saturday, September 28th.
Yeah, I already have that one on my calendar. Gee whiz, we're getting busy around here. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
Leaves us up to a public forum, but we have no one here tonight. So if there's nothing else from anyone else, I would move that we adjourn.
I second.
And technically, you don't have to vote on that part, do you? You do? Oh.
Can
All
he
in
make
favor?
the motion?
Yeah?
No.
No.
Do what?
You can somewhat, so if Commissioner Holt first wants to make the motion and then have someone else second.
I thought you, okay.
Did you make the motion? So you didn't make the
I
motion?
move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay.
Is that it? What? Okay.
All in favor?
Nancy.
Oh, goodness.
Awesome.
One day.